It is a big fight week here in Brisbane, and we're joined by plenty of superstars here as well in the Fight City ahead of this big fight between Nikita Tszyu and Michael Zerafa. I'm Ben Damon. Joining me, Shawn Porter, Australia's own Paro, and Paulie Malignaggi joins us for the first time as well. Welcome to you, firstly, Paulie.
Thank you.
Great to have you here in Australia. What have you made of not only our country, but also this fight week that you're a part of this week?
Having a good time so far. A lot of excitement about the upcoming card this weekend. Big fight. I can feel the energy. The energy's been sort of growing. It's bubbling up as we get closer to fight night. I'm really looking forward to it.
The funny thing about that is a lot of times when I come over here, I don't know what the card is. I don't know who's fighting instantly. The moment you start talking about the fights, you just get excited.
Yeah.
The energy that you guys bring over here it's electric. It really is.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that, because obviously we watch the fights in the US and we go and be a part of them as well, and Liam's fought all around the world. But here in Australia, it's a little bit different, isn't it? The way we do things and the way that we put these guys out there for the public to see.
You guys really put on events, and that was the first thing I noticed when I got here. And Paulie, I didn't say anything to you because I really want to hear how you feel about it after we do the show on Friday night. But I noticed that about No Limit Promotions. Like, you guys, from top to bottom, to fights are entertaining. In between the fights, you got the entertainment. You just, it's an energy, right? And it always has never failed. I think this might be like my 7th or 8th time. It never fails to build up the way it's supposed to. And the main event is always what you want it to be.
Liam, you're a part of proceedings on both sides now, inside and outside the ropes. Exciting to have these sorts of guys here. You can tell that it means a lot, doesn't it, when we've got Nikita Tszyu and Michael Zerafa out there, but this is the sort of punditry we have coming to Australia.
100%. We've got two legends of the game here. How blessed are we to do that? And it just shows the magnitude that No Limit are doing now, the size of the shows they're putting on here in Australia, to have these two here. And yeah, it's crazy, and let's keep going.
All right, let's talk about this fight. It is Nikita Tszyu and Michael Zerafa. You've shared the ring with Zerafa, so I'll start with you. Yep. You've watched Nikita as well. We've called some of his fights.
Yep.
What do you think's going to happen in this fight?
Look, man, I'm on the fence, you know what I mean? Like I've always said, Australian boxing wins, but breaking it down, you can't look past experience with Zerafa. You know, you go to any job, the boss is going to look at a resume. Experience is always a key factor coming in. The boys have said he's at the end of his career. I think he knows this is do or die for him. He's looking at Tszyu, some bigger paydays. I don't think he's fully satisfied with his career, which that might give him that extra push to get this over the line, because, look, it's do or die. It's retirement knocking on the door if he doesn't get past Nikita. Nikita, he's on his way up. He can afford to have the loss. He can rebuild. He's got the time. But, man, it honestly is. I'm backing it to be a 50-50 fight. It can go so many different ways. But, yeah, it's truly exciting. Good to be a spectator for once.
Yeah, 50-50 fight. Don't you say that, Shawn. Tell us what you think's going to happen in this one.
I know you guys hate it. You know, no one wants to hear that it's a 50-50 fight. I think you want to hear that it's going to be a good fight, right? But when I say that it's 50-50, I mean, it truly is, depending on who comes into the ring on fight night, on both sides of the ring. You got a Nikita Tszyu who has to be as disciplined he's ever been in his career, in only 11 fights. This is his 12th fight. You're expecting this young kid to be, I think, more disciplined than he's ever been in his life in anything that he's ever done. And then on the other side there, you're hoping that Michael Zerafa wakes up and he's a version of himself that is the 35-year-old Nikita that he's getting in the ring with. And you really do wonder, can he do that again, you know? So that's what makes it 50-50, is the fact that both these guys have all the intangibles to beat one another. But can they really come in the ring on fight night and be the person that they're supposed to be against one another? If they are both that A-level guy against one another, it's going to be a great night.
We've got to
be 50-50.
Yeah, we've got a guy who's had 11 fights. We've got a guy who's having his 40th professional fight. So there's that huge advantage in terms of experience for Michael Zerafa. But Paulie, I know you like to look at these guys outside the ring and weigh up their temperaments. Have you seen anything while you've been here in Australia that gives you any indication that one of these guys might not get in there at 100%?
I can talk about my own experience, and also my experience also includes having watched this sport for a long time, having been ringside for a lot of fights, and having been doing punditry within these kind of fights in the past, and listening to the fighters in the past, and, you know, realizing what they say and what they take into the ring, as to what part of their career they're at, and sort of, you know, making up my mind, and then seeing the results in the ring. And through that experience, I bring up this. You say not to say it's a 50-50 fight. It's not a 50-50 fight. I think it's about a 60-40 fight for Nikita Tszyu.
Oh.
And I'm not, and that's not to disrespect Mike Zerafa. Mike Zerafa has been a solid fighter. There comes a point in your career where you're, I want to say, a little bit used up, and you need to dig in, and you want to dig in. You want to prove everybody wrong. I've been through it. Shawn's been through it. You get to that point in your career, it comes. The day will come, you know, and your name, because you've accomplished so much, your name becomes sort of a resume filler for somebody else. And it irritates you. You say, I'm not a resume filler. I can still do it. Listen, being a resume filler is not bad because you get the opportunity to pull off the upset, and sometimes you do. So having said that, Mike Zerafa can't take it as a disrespect because he himself has the power inside the ring to change the perspective of the people that are naysayers and doubting him. And sometimes you want to have that negativity to motivate you to say, you know what, I will prove you wrong. But you know, when you're in there and you take those big punches, Nikita has the ignorance is bliss mentality. He almost doesn't know what to get himself into. And sometimes that's a positive because when you do get yourself into that trouble and he's been down and he's overcome adversity and all that other stuff, you don't really know how deep that well goes. You're like, I got hit, I'm going to get up, I'm going to keep fighting. But when you've been there, it's a two-edged sword because you've been there so you know, okay, what it takes to overcome it. And sometimes you can't overcome it. But you've also been there, and sometimes you're at a point in your career where you're like, man, I do not want to go down this path again tonight, you know? And it's like, oh, do I really have it in me to go down this path again tonight? And sometimes you don't. But you've said it before. When they called you for the fight, you're motivated 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks before. But on the night, you're motivated. You take a couple of big shots, and suddenly you're like, okay, it's that kind of night. Do I have that in me? I don't know. You know, and that's not to say Zerafa doesn't have it in him, because as Liam eloquently put, there's opportunities there if he wins. There's an opportunity for a Tim Tszyu fight. There's an opportunity for a Nikita rematch if he wins. Because if he wins, I think he puts himself in a position to fight both Tszyu. You can beat Nikita, you fight Tim, and then whether you win or lose that fight, you can always do the rematch with Nikita, right? So there is opportunities for Zerafa. But I'll tell you this. Money's a motivator, but it's not the motivator when you got to get up off your butt. Mm-hmm. It's not telling you. In that moment, you're not counting the bank. You're saying, I'm making enough money already.
He's talking you into this.
It's just, that was crazy because basically what he's saying is he's betting against the intelligence, right? Because Nikita's dumb enough, he's stupid enough.
Yeah, and that in a good way.
Because he's young enough.
We're all that dumb.
Because he's young enough to do the right things. What does that mean? If he should take the big punch, he's going to come right back. He's just stupid enough to not know.
Look at these fights.
He doesn't know better, right? But then Zerafa's smart enough to do the wrong things. What does that mean? If the rounds are going as hard as he trained for them to go, but now he's realizing it in the moment, he might succumb to it and pull back, do the wrong things that we don't expect, don't want him to do.
Me and Shawn aren't just saying that because we're saying it. Me and Shawn are saying it because we've watched it ringside, we've experienced it ourselves. Nobody goes into a fight wanting to lose. Everybody wants to prove everybody wrong.
So do you think the first few rounds is going to be a big indicator to see how it goes?
It's key because Zerafa could be blown away in the first few rounds, as he has.
Yep.
If he gets through it, he starts making Nikita think. But again, Nikita has this ignorance is bliss that it doesn't even matter. You start making him think, he's just going to go in there and attack you like a caveman. The rawness of Nikita is both good and bad. You know, I think Nikita has a little bit of an Arturo Gatti-esque type of career in front of him because he takes shots, he's not ends up on his butt, he gets up, but he's got this raw punching power like a caveman, and he'll hit you upside your head and knock you all over the place. That what it was. That guy Briggs was his name Briggs, the guy that he had the rivalry, the guy who's now. Dude, that guy, that was crazy because he'd been down in the gym, then he's down in round one, and then he gets up and beats this guy all over the ring, like as if nothing happened, as if there's no history. You know what? I'm giving up because again, that's the ignorance is bliss. Zerafa could get off to a good start, and a normal thinking person is going to get in their own head if they're Nikita. Maybe if Nikita has 30 fights, maybe he gets in his own head. Mm-hmm. But Nikita only has 12 fights. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have enough experience to get in his own head. All he knows how to do is, you know what? I'm going to go right at you. Take this, take this, take this. And when if Zerafa comes down to taking it, do you start going down that path? I've been here before, okay? I know what I got to do to get out of here. Only Zerafa knows this answer. Right. I'm just putting out the talking points here.
Right.
Yeah, that, you know what? I've been in this situation enough times, both from ringside and inside the ring, to know that in that moment, it's not the money that motivates you. It's your ambition that motivates you. And by that point in your career, your ambition isn't the same. And Mike Zerafa said some key things in his promotion. He said, the pressure's on Nikita. I can just go back to my gym and hold pads. But you've never been a world champion, Mike Zerafa. So the motivation is there. Motivation should be there. You should be saying, I've never been a world champion. I've been in big fights, but my goal is still to end my career as a world champion. I've got to at least experience that. But he doesn't say that. And that's telling for me.
There is this thinking as well, Liam, that on occasion, Michael Zerafa sort of doesn't shine under the lights. There have been big fights where he hasn't turned up at his best. Do you think there is a query on that, or is there more of a query on Nikita Tszyu being able to go to this level at this stage of his career?
Look, it's both and both. This is a massive jump up for Nikita now to see if he's on that world level, fringe level. You know what I mean? This is his step. For Zerafa, there's a lot of legacy. You know, he's a proud man. Like, I don't think he wants to go down to Tszyu. So in saying that, I think he does have that fight just because this is massive for bragging rights in Australian boxing. And I just think Zerafa's really going to bring the heat. I really do. You know, like you said, the first few rounds is going to see that. We're going to see if he's got it in him after he gets hit early, which Nikita has to enforce his authority. Otherwise, it's going to be one-way traffic, I believe. Zerafa is a good boxer. And one thing people overlook is his punching power. I've trained with him. He's got some sting. You know, Nikita leaves himself open and very vulnerable. If Zerafa catches him early, man, it's like that's where I'm on the fence with the 50-50. It can go so many ways.
Here's the thing. Here's one thing to think about. Lara got Mike out very quickly. The southpaw stance, is that a problem for Zerafa?
Yeah, well, no one can speak to that better than Liam Paro.
That's why I was bringing it up.
Yeah, well, look, man, he's...
Right here.
And we got to tell the truth, all right? Don't speak if you're not telling.
All right, tell us about the sparring.
No, it was good sparring. It was good rounds. You know, he's a bit heavier.
The gym stays in the gym.
That's
though.
right. It is sparring tales. But look, we're comfortable. You know what I mean? We're on our way to be a two-division world champion. You know, so like I said, we're at the top level. He wants to get to that top level. Going to Lara, come on, man, that's a whole different kettle of fish. That's a different level to a Nikita Tszyu. Nikita's still got to prove his way to get there.
But are the rumors true?
But look, he handled himself not too bad. Not too bad against the Southpaw. I didn't see nothing too much struggle at all. You know what I mean? He's good at trying to set traps, trying to set him up, and it's just if Nikita is smart enough or enough of a boxing IQ yet to not fall for those traps.
Nikita's not so much smart as he is awkward. You know, he attacks in weird, awkward ways. He's
unorthodox.
He's explosive.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he's hittable. Then all of a sudden he's exploding offensively in a way where he's hurting. And these body shots he's throwing, these weird body shots from the southpaw stance. It's like, and then all of a sudden you hit with a body, like
the angles you can't.
Yeah. All of a sudden you're like, oh man, he hit me with a body shot. Like I thought it was coming to the head. You know, so the awkwardness also, and the intensity. That's what worries me with an older veteran, the intensity of a young lion, the youth energy, I call it. You know, the youth energy is something that's an intangible that only it sort of fades away from you as you get older. You start to make up for it with your intelligence, but you got to have enough craftiness to offset the youth intelligence. So that's sort of the conversation point.
Interesting thing about that, though, Paulie, and I've seen this so many times, it irks me. You got a young fighter in the ring with a guy with a lot of experience. You say, oh, yeah, I'm going to use my youth. I'm going to use my youth. You said it, but what does it actually mean? And my thing with that is, does the Tszyu camp know how to teach him how to use his youth? Teach him to keep his foot on that gas pedal, but also teach him the defense that we know he lacks. You know what I mean? To me, we know that he's prepared if he comes out strong and he remains strong each second of every round. It's not about throwing a lot of punches, but it's just about stalking Michael Zerafa, taking away that space that Michael feels he's going to be able to earn and get, you know?
It's a really good point because Michael Zerafa's not going to turn up not fit. He trains hard. He's always fit. He's always ready. If you were in the Tszyu camp, what would you be saying to Nikita that he has to do to beat this version of Michael Zerafa?
You know, if he has the feet that he needs, you know, you got to be able to maintain a level of distance from this kid where you're not in range to get hit, but he still feels your presence. That's the number one thing I would tell him. Michael Zerafa has to feel your presence all night. Feint, feint, feint. I don't know if they're teaching the feints over there, but feints, foot feints, and keep him busy. You keep the old man busy, and that's how you wear him down. It's not about just
intensity.
It's not about, that's the intensity, but again, people don't always understand when we're talking about intensity. It's not about this. It's just about enough.
Keep him thinking.
Yeah, keeping him occupied, just enough
body
to
presence
keep him
there.
And make him
face.
start to go to that place, like I said, where it's like, okay, I'm at a place and I know where it's going here. Do I have it in me? You know? I'll tell you what, Nikita, we've talked about, he's hittable. His defense is a little leaky. He's raw. It wouldn't even shock me if Zerafa puts him on the canvas. The thing about Nikita is that we've seen how he reacts when he's on the canvas. He doesn't stay hurt, and he reacts I don't want to say because it's too early to make those comparisons, but it almost reminds me like a Felix Trinidad when he used to get knocked down early and he used to come back and it was worse. And it was worse. You almost didn't even want to knock him down.
Yeah,
Then
he
it
quite
was
likes
worse.
it. Yeah.
So it's like, I could see Zerafa, because Zerafa is more classy in his boxing. I could see him even catching a nice right hand, throwing a nice right hand down the middle. Tszyu has those pullbacks every once in a while that he does for no reason. He's all over the place sometimes, and he'll get caught. But again, Tszyu has that fiery temperament, and it's going to come into play. There's going to come the moment where it's going to come into play, where Zerafa's going to have to make a decision. Even if Zerafa wants to use that craftiness, there's going to be moments where he's going to have to bite down and bite and stay in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then if he does it enough, and he does it well enough, he can use the rest of the rounds to be crafty. But there's going to have to be moments where he shows Nikita something that has to force his respect.
Yeah, gotcha. Do you think Nikita knowing to fade a little bit in the later rounds might play a factor as well? Like you're saying, he wants the body presence, but he's knowing to fade. So that might be his undoing also?
That depends on Zerafa's intensity as well. Zerafa has, you got to take him to that place. It's not just going to the late round. You got to be able to take him to that place where he's using too much energy and you're not while you're still in the fight. You can't make him use too much energy and you're just surviving and you're down 8-0. Because then it's harder to stay in the fight. You got to get Nikita Tszyu there while keeping the fight competitive. And then if Nikita starts to flounder a little bit, you can maybe use your experience in those final rounds to carry the fight your way. That's, if an older veteran, if we think of how older veterans beat younger guys, that's typically how they do it, right? You think of I think of something, a higher level fight, like a Lomachenko going in too early against Orlando Salido. He was doing well, but then late in the fight, it was Salido who sort of used that craftiness because the fight was hanging on the balance still. Yeah. For Zerafa's craftiness to come into play and Nikita's fading to come into play, the fight have to still be hanging on the balance after 8 rounds. Yeah. So first and foremost, you got to get to past 8 rounds.
And then it goes back to the experience.
And then at that point, you've got a chance because Nikita may start to flounder. But you got 2 jobs on your hand. You got to get to the 8th round, and you got to get there with the fight still being competitive in the 8th round. If that's the case, Zerafa has a real good chance in the final 4 rounds, in my opinion.
Liam, we're going to sub you out in a minute. So before you do go, we've just heard from Shawn what Nikita Tszyu needs to do. Put yourself in Michael Zerafa's corner. What would you be telling him ahead of this fight that he needs to do to beat Nikita Tszyu?
Box smart and composed early. Because Nikita's going to come out to try to stamp his authority. That's how I think he's going to do it. That's how he has to do it. Just box smart. Find openings, smart and snappy.